Hey everyone, welcome back to K-Korner, the channel where we dive into the wild world of entitled people and their unbelievable stories. Hope you enjoy it, and without further ado, let's go. For context, and this will be a long one, sorry my mother and me, and well, my siblings have a rocky relationship. She and my dad divorced when I was around 5, 8 I don't remember exactly when. Divorce was a surprisingly smooth sailing. We weren't called to court. From my understanding, and from what my grandparents from my mother's side told me, my dad was very cooperative and didn't want to tear that family apart more than it was already. He somewhat succeeded because he even went to Christmas few times after the divorce, even when both my mother and my dad found new partners. I adore both my stepmom and stepdad. I live with both of them, and they're great people. I might be lucky because 3/4 of my parents are really great people. That's a weird sentence. My dad even likes my stepdad, which is an interesting dynamic. But my mother, there's so much stuff here to unpack. Starting from my earliest memories with my mom, I hear screams when she was arguing with my grandparents and threatening that she will kill herself, mainly about opening her veins and throwing herself under the train. I remember those very strongly. Those did not involve me yet, nor my siblings, because I'm the oldest one. Later, I started having problems at school. She was supposed to teach me even though I lived either with my grandparents or my dad, and I dreaded those meetings. She could 1 minute be a happy and loving mom, and I think it was genuine, and a minute later scream that I'm an egotistical pig that will end up living under a bridge and that I will kill all of my family. When the divorce date was coming closer and closer, she was manipulating me to testify against my dad in court, because otherwise me and my siblings, will be split. She used this argument every time I pointed out something I did not like in her behavior. And she was exploding with anger, saying how she does so much for me and my father does jack crap, like it was a competition. I grew up pretty lonely and, well, I never really had any friends because I did not know how to talk with people. But after I turned 13 and I met my first friend, it was at an organized hiking trip that she actually found out for me and paid for. Sometimes she was really loving and caring. It was like she had two sides that she was switching between for seemingly no reason at all. I lost this friend group pretty quickly. I think I was acting similar to her and they couldn't stand my fluctuating emotions. I was a mess. But I kept going on those trips, and when I was 16, I met my future girlfriend on one of them. She wasn't living in the same city, but her was about 1-2 by train from mine, so it wasn't that big of a deal. We were pretty happy. For a while, I was regularly meeting with her in her city. We even spent some vacations and holidays together. She never visited me because of her family situation, and honestly, it was a good excuse for me. I did not want her and my mother to meet. This girl had enough on her shoulders. Her story is a post for another day, but for this one, let's just state the most important parts. She had really healthy family, but sadly 2 of her family members were terminally ill. They both died while COVID was rampaging through the country because of insufficient medical care. And I wasn't a great help for her. More than that, I added her pain. I was manipulating her emotionally just like my mother was manipulating me. One day I crossed a line and threatened suicide. She cut me off, and from hindsight, it was a good decision. I was actively trying to get her back. I regret this moment of my life greatly. But time passes. I went to therapy. I started to build actual healthy relationships, fix some things with my dad. My mother never was a great help, but at this point, I was living on my own. To be honest, this whole debacle with my ex scared me. I don't want to play a victim here, because the real victims in this situation was her. It's just that when I realized what I've done, it terrified me, that I was just like my mother. I'm struggling with guilt till this day, and TBH, I'm not sure I can enter another relationship yet. One part of me knows that I've changed, but the other one does not believe it. I don't want to hurt anyone like my mother hurt me, my sibling, and my dad. For years, I was doing everything to change. I was supporting my friend in every way I could to at least do something good if I can't fix my past mistakes. I don't know if I succeed at this, but let's just say I'm not alone anymore. But now we're getting to recent events. I actually did fall in love again. I was honestly surprised. It sadly won't end in a relationship because of things both of us do not have any way of altering, but that's just life. I started to heal, though. But when I realized I can't be with her, something broke inside of me. It was a long time since I really felt that type of love, so I did not know how to react, and I started crying. I was actually in my mother's house that night because it was a few days before Christmas, I think. My stepdad realized that something was wrong and came to support me, and my mom joined after a while. Firstly, she completely ignored my state and said that she's happy that I finally found someone real, and that I imagined my ex. She summarized all of this trauma and bad, and good memories to my imagination. Also added that it's weird how many of my friends have emotional problems. Girl I fell for had suicide attempt a night before. That was the final straw that broke me. Then she added that I'll find another one and that I should cry about this one. I think it was a way of showing empathy. I don't really know. Every time I was on the edge and needed her help, she was adding more weight to my shoulders. And I exploded. I said to her that I never want her to comfort me again, that every time she does it, she just hurts me more. She retaliated. She again started attacking my character like she always does in situations like this. She always calls me egotistical and self-centered. And then she started talking about how I'm so similar to my father, that she never loved him, that she only married him because she thought he will provide for her and that she will not need to be worried about money, and that she was never happy with him. It broke me. I never knew. I thought they genuinely loved each other at some point. My father certainly did. Now I'm scared that I actually will end up in a similar situation as my father. Used, never loved, or that I will be the one who will use others. I'm scared. I don't want to be either. This has been a long time coming, and it's like a breath of fresh air now that it's over. My kids both cut contact with her over this. They've also cut contact with their dad as he defended his mother by telling my kids what he really thought of my partner and I. We are unanimous that we are done. My kids, they've been incredibly supportive and just amazing. They appreciate us allowing them to make up their own minds and having that relationship with their grandmother, and claim they understand why we hid it from them for so long. My oldest is furious at his grandmother and father. The youngest is still very conflicted, but he is young enough to not remember any of the negatives from his father and his relationship. Yes, I'm sad it has come to this, but honestly, this was the best potential outcome I could possibly have wished for myself. I wish we could have continued on with my kids never knowing the difference, but many of you are right that I was not protecting them from toxic people, even if they never experienced the toxicity until now. So, my former Mel is quite the human, and I use that term very loosely. When the kids were born, she bragged to my parents that she would get to be the one hanging out with the kids, watching them grow and all that, because my parents lived in another country at the time. The day my parents got on the plane to go home, my Mel disappeared as well. She did the same to her own son when he was born, so again, not surprising. From what I gathered while I was married to her son, she was major absentee mom that left him with whoever for months at a time. It messed him up so very badly. Unfortunately for me, he hides it well. This woman has never been there either for her son, my ex-husband, let alone her grandkids. That selfish bee. I doubt they've ever had a thought of anyone but herself. Her son is an absentee dad as well. No surprise there, really. He learned that trick from his mom. So it's been myself and my long-term partner, as his amazing family, who's raised these kids together for the past 13 years. The odd Christmas we would get a call from Mel asking if I'd bring the kids to her. It's not terrible as she lives about 30 minutes from us. 30 minutes, and she has never made the effort to see them at our home, though she has been invited every year. Every time we arrive at her home, she's drinking. Her husband is always drunk and gets mean at the drop of a hat. They then make comments comparing my partner to her son. No comparison, like comparing a nugget of dog crap V's, one of solid gold. But it's incredibly uncomfortable, to say the least. It's worse when my partner doesn't come with us. That often left us scrambling to attend 5 Christmas dinners over 2 days. And this means we had to leave our big family dinner early or arrive super late because she and her husband refused to reschedule for even an hour before or after. The big family dinner has happened for the past 60 on the same day at the same time and has over 90 people attending. It can't be rescheduled. Her dinner is us showing up at 5 to a cold and half-eaten meal because they decided to eat early and not tell us. Other than we 4, they are the only other attendees. Her son won't even go, which is how I get roped into this every year. The last few years have been very rough with my grandparents passing on and my own parents becoming incapacitated. So the Christmas dinner crawl has dwindled to a more reasonable 2 hours with my parents and my partner's family dinner. This morning at 7 a.m., D22, my former Mill called and demanded, not asked, that she and her husband see the kids who are now nearly grown. Kids said no, they don't want to go there this year and said that she could come here for our dinner instead. I obviously don't like her much, but I do try to hide it well for my kids' sake. And she is my kids' grandmother, and as such, they have every right to include her to a dinner in our home. They also invite their dad every year, though he usually spends the holidays drunk and high, crying to whoever will still listen to him babble about how lonely he is. Yes, he is just as ridiculous as his mother. He just hides it much better. So we told her she's welcome up so long as she and her husband are not drinking. We've been through that enough with my ex, and we have a no-alcohol home because of it. She agrees, though you can tell she's not happy about it. I tell her we will be sitting down around 5 p.m. She lost her crap, claiming that it's ridiculous that grown adults can't have a drink with supper, and states that's what time she sits down with her husband to eat. You can just change the time, right? No. We have 8 people eating, 4 of which are traveling over an hour to get here, and damned if I'm messing with their schedules to accommodate 2 people who have never once accommodated us. I said it slightly nicer, but I'm sure you could tell I was on the verge of laughing at her. She got angry, hung up, and now has started posting on social media how I refuse to allow her ups to give her grandbabies their gifts. And I do have to say, she and her son are well off and play the extravagant gift game well enough to keep my kids interested, which is just another form of toxic manipulation. But the kids don't see it that way, yet, so we say nothing. Joke's on her, though. Apparently, I'm not the only one that's noticed the shitty treatment of myself, my partner, or our kids over the years. My inbox is now being flooded with messages on my side, sending me screenshots of what she's calling me and my partner, telling me she's toxic. We definitely know. And how she steals photos from my social media and pretends like she sees her grandkids more than once a year, even though she can't tell anyone what grade they are in. Every message warns me to keep my kids away from her and her son because they're terrible people. Mill is on my social media, but I must have been blocked because when I look, nothing is there. As in, not even her name shows up in searches anymore. I'm so happy, really. This was the best Christmas present I could have expected this year after 2 very hard years. Thank you, Santa, for allowing the trash to finally take itself out this holiday season. It's been a very long and frustrating 14 years, and I appreciate it more than you'll ever know. Maybe I'm the entitled person here, but I think I deserve to be treated with some decency, treated like a human with some basic kindness, dignity, and respect. I am homeless, and I have story. About a week ago, I burned my hand somewhat badly. It was my own dumb mistake. I have a small camp stove I use for cooking, and I just finished with it. My dumbass took my food off, turned it off, and grabbed it to put away. I literally grabbed the metal part the pan rests on for getting metal fire hot. I did everything I could to take care of it. I washed my hands a lot. I kept cleaning it off with isopropyl alcohol and polysporin to help it heal. But my best efforts weren't enough. I developed an infection, and I knew I needed treatment. Instead of going to the emergency room, I found a walk-in clinic. I waited my turn to see the doctor, and when I finally got in to explain what I needed, he basically refused to help me. He said he wouldn't be prescribing anything, and I'd just have to deal with the pain, accusing me of intentionally burning myself for drugs. I tried to say I just needed antibiotics because my hand was infected. Well, I got nothing, and I knew the infection was bad. I was unable to close my hand. It was getting very swollen. Just an FYI, I don't drink, I don't use drugs. I'm on the straight and narrow path. So I left, and it was off to the emergency room because I needed treatment. I went and explained to the ER nurse what happened, that I think I need antibiotics, and was put in the waiting room for 6 hours. Finally, I was taken back into a smaller waiting room where I waited for another 3 hours. Finally, a doctor came, but what bothered me was he had 2 very large security guards behind him. The doctor didn't ask me what's wrong. He immediately said, "Unfortunately, we can't prescribe you any medication," and basically tried to usher me out of the door. Damn. Yeah, I know I look rough, but I'm not a tweaker, and I kind of got really mad and raised my voice. I said very sternly, "I don't want your damn drugs, I want treatment." I slammed my hand very hard down on the metal table thing they have in the rooms and said, "I have an infection." I burned myself on my camp stove. I have my stove in my bag. You can see little burned pieces of my flesh still on it. I just need you to take a look, Marie. Give me some antibiotics because I don't want to have to cosplay as Captain Hook for the rest of my life. Me slamming my hand on the table alerted the security. They said if I have another outburst like that, they're going to hold me and get the police involved. Luckily, the doctor finally got it through his head. I wasn't a junkie and took a look at my hand. He ended up giving me a needle in my hand because it was very infected, as well as a blister pack of antibiotics, enough for 7 days. He said if it's not better in a week to come back. But seriously, am I being entitled? Do I not have the right to be treated like a human? Enjoying the stories yet? If you do, please subscribe, like, and comment. Due to my parents' higher vulnerability to COVID-19, I've been doing my grocery shopping alone during the pandemic. Being blind, this process involves some extra steps, such as seeking assistance from store staff and having my trusty guide dog, Gumbo, accompany me. Having a guide dog often garners a variety of reactions, and one particular incident stood out during my recent shopping trip. Towards the end of my shopping, I heard boisterous footsteps followed by an excited young voice exclaiming, "That dog is so cute. Can I pet him?" It was clear from the voice that it was a child. I prepared myself for a response explaining that my dog, as my guide, can't be touched. Surprisingly, the child didn't seem entitled, but rather curious and excited about a dog with a job. She asked me a few questions and then continued on her way. I thought little of it and carried on with my shopping. After finishing, I decided to grab some lunch at the food court before leaving. As I waited for my order, by some unfortunate twist of fate, the same child and her parents happened to pass by. She eagerly recounted to her mother what I had shared with her about my dog's role in my visual impairment. The mother's response was concerning. She seemed to take issue with the information her daughter had received. I decided to eavesdrop, as people approaching me isn't uncommon. The mother's first words, however, were unexpected and accusatory. She asked, "Why did you tell my daughter that you're blind?" Her tone was harsh. I maintained my composure and replied, "Well, that's because I am blind. Your daughter inquired about my dog, so I explained what guide dogs are and why I rely on one." The entitled parent persisted, asserting, "You're not blind." I was taken aback by her audacity and simply said, "Excuse me." Her comment had caught me off guard. She continued, "My cousin is blind, so I know what a blind person is like. You shouldn't lie about that. I think you should let my daughter pet your dog. She loves dogs." In a calm but firm tone, I clarified, "Ma'am, not all blind people are the same. Just because you know one blind person doesn't mean you know every blind person's experience. As I mentioned earlier, your daughter can't pet my dog because he is a guide dog." The entitled parent's frustration grew. She accused me of lying, insisting that my eyes looked perfectly fine, and even accused me of using a phone. She boldly stated, "Don't claim to be blind if you're not going to prove it. Why would you lie about that?" I tried to reason with her. "I'm not lying. My eyes appearing fine doesn't change the fact that I'm visually impaired. The appearance of a person's eyes can vary greatly among blind individuals. I'd appreciate it if you could respect my space." After I explained my situation and politely declined the request to let her daughter pet my guide dog, I had hoped that things would settle down and the entitled woman would move on. Unfortunately, the situation only escalated from there. She insisted, "My daughter wants to pet your dog. She's been well behaved today, and it's only reasonable to let her play with your dog." Once again, I politely declined and asked her why she couldn't accept my answer. She responded with frustration, saying, "You keep using that excuse. You're honestly starting to upset me. I don't know who you think you are, but I happen to work for someone at this place. If you don't stop, I'll get security to remove you and your supposed guide dog." At this point, it was clear that this confrontation was far from over. The argument continued for about 5 minutes, with her growing increasingly angry because I wouldn't allow her daughter to touch my guide dog. Surprisingly, the daughter remained quiet throughout the ordeal, indicating she might not have been as invested in the situation as her mother. Eventually, with the argument going in circles, the entitled woman exclaimed, "That's it. I'm getting security right now. If you're smart, you'll be gone by the time I return, or you'll regret it." She stormed off, and I simply snorted in response. I wasn't entirely convinced that she would involve security, but with entitled individuals like her, you can never be too sure. About 5 minutes later, she returned, and I could hear her approaching from about 15 feet away, still furious. She immediately flagged down a security guard and said, "Look, that's her. She's sitting there with a dog. She claims it's a guide dog, but she's not blind. You have to kick her out. Dogs aren't allowed in here." I sighed and removed my earbud, preparing for what was to come. The security guard, a deep-voiced man who seemed fed up with the situation, asked, "Miss, is this your service dog?" I replied, "Yes, he is a seeing eye dog, and I'm allowed to have him here. I have a copy of the appropriate law if you need it." The security guard, seeming uninterested in the law, inquired further, "This woman is saying you aren't disabled. Is that true?" I responded, "No. She's just angry that I didn't let her daughter touch my service dog. I honestly don't understand why she's so invested in this." The entitled woman interjected, calling me a liar and claiming that she understood blind people because of her blind cousin. I turned back to the security guard and requested, "Could you please ask her to leave me alone? I just want to eat in peace." The security guard then turned to me and asked, "So you are blind?" I replied, "Yes, I am." What he said next left me astounded. He asked me if I could prove my blindness in any way. Perplexed, I questioned how on earth I could possibly do that and why I should have to. He responded, "Well, she's saying one thing, and you're saying another. I'm not sure who to believe, and proving your blindness doesn't seem practical." He then turned his attention to the entitled woman and asked, "Why do you believe she's lying?" The entitled woman retorted, "Are you serious right now? Look at her eyes. They're not white or cloudy like blind people's eyes. She's literally looking at her phone." The security guard turned back to me asking for my response to this accusation. I explained, well, her cousin might have those eye symptoms. Not every blind person does. Those symptoms are caused by conditions like cataracts, which I don't have. Regarding the phone, devices have been accessible to blind individuals for years. I find it surprising that she has a blind cousin and isn't aware of this. I continued, "I have a basic light perception. I can detect light and direct my eyes toward it out of habit because my hands are occupied. But it's not my responsibility to educate you, sir. Please ask her to leave me alone." I don't care if she believes me or not. There's no need for a back and forth discussion. I simply want her to stop talking to me and allow me to eat in peace. I feel extremely harassed. I had hoped this would be the end of the ordeal, but the security guard still expressed uncertainty about my blindness. I was dumbfounded. He seemed to be using the entitled woman's cousin, who was blind, as evidence against my claim of blindness. Frustrated, I told the security guard, "If you won't get this lady away from me, I guess I'll have to leave. Thanks for failing to protect a disabled patron." I stood up, ready to depart with my guide dog guiding me. As I took a few steps, I suddenly felt someone grab my harness tightly, bringing me to an abrupt halt. It was the entitled woman who had grabbed my harness and said, "Wait right there." I said, "I wanted you to let my daughter pet the dog, then you can leave." By this point, my panic was mounting. I shouted, "No, get off my harness right now." It's essential to understand that someone grabbing my harness is equivalent to taking away my ability to navigate. It's akin to taking your sight. I'd only experienced this once before, and I was in full-blown panic mode. As I tried to pull my harness handle away, she was also screaming loudly in my ear. I couldn't make out her words. I was too focused on freeing my guide dog. The security guard, in the meantime, was somewhat fumbling and ineffective, which was expected. Thankfully, a second security guard arrived on the scene and inquired, "What's going on?" My response was a scream at the top of my lungs. "She's taking my guide dog. Help me. She won't let go." However, this entitled one adamantly denied everything. She insisted, "No, she's supposed to let my daughter pet her dog." This guy said so. I assumed she was referring to the first security guard, who predictably remained silent. The second security guard intervened and firmly told her, "Miss, let go of that lady's dog right now or I'll escort you out." The entitled woman then reiterated her earlier claim, saying she is not blind. "This dog isn't a real service dog. Don't assume you know what's going on." At this point, I had managed to calm myself slightly, enough to speak more coherently. I pleaded, "Please, just get off of me. I want to leave. I don't feel safe. Leave me alone." Finally, the second security guard seemed to catch on. That's when I felt the woman's hand being forcibly removed from the harness handle. As soon as I was free, I immediately commanded Gumbo to lead me to the exit, and we briskly walked away as I heard the entitled woman screaming loudly behind me. As I hurriedly made my way towards the exit, the tension in the air was palpable, and my heart raced with each step. Gumbo, sensing my urgency, guided me swiftly through the maze of the food court. Just as I was about to breathe a sigh of relief, I felt a sudden impact against my body, knocking me off balance. Instinctively, I reached out, gripping Gumbo's harness tightly as chaos erupted around us. Before I could fully comprehend what was happening, I heard the commotion escalate, accompanied by shouts and scuffling. Through the confusion, I could distinguish the sound of someone being restrained. Security had intervened once again, and this time they weren't tolerating any further disruptions. The entitled mother, in a desperate attempt to take control, had crossed the line too far. As the security guard swiftly subdued the entitled mother, I felt a wave of relief wash over me. The weight of the confrontation slowly lifted from my shoulders, replaced by a sense of disbelief at the events that had just transpired. With the situation finally under control, I continued on my journey home, my mind reeling with the events of the day. Despite the unsettling encounter, I found solace in the knowledge that justice had prevailed, and I could finally put this harrowing ordeal behind me. As I settled into the comfort of my own home, surrounded by the familiar presence of Gumbo by my side, I couldn't help but reflect on the resilience and unwavering support of my faithful guide dog. Though shaken by the encounter, I remained steadfast in my determination to navigate the world with courage and dignity, knowing that together Gumbo and I could overcome any obstacle that came our way. My family and I go every year on a camping trip a few towns over. There's always a big event going on when we go, so it's usually a big party environment. Because of this, my dad tries to invite family friends to go as well. This year, he invited his friend T and his wife EM. We've had some bad experiences with the EM in the past, especially since she enjoys inviting people to gatherings she isn't supposed to. When we arrived at our campsites, EM had also insisted on bringing her nephew. My mom remarked that she didn't know he was coming, and EM simply shrugged and said she didn't want him to spend the weekend alone, which would be understandable, but he's a 22-year-old man with a pregnant girlfriend, so he most likely wouldn't have been alone. We didn't care much. He brought his own tent, and he was a nice guy, so it wasn't too intrusive for us. As we got settled in, EM walked into our camper where I was sitting alone. She looked around and began to question me about it. Things like, "Must be nice to have this camper all to yourselves, and if your dad got rented camper, why are you guys making him sleep in a tent?" First of all, we were allowing everyone to come in, hang out, and use the kitchen and the bathroom if they wanted. We just didn't allow people into the bedroom because that's where me and my mom kept our luggage. Second, my dad wanted to sleep in a tent. The bathrooms in the park are filthy, and it can get incredibly hot, and I'm prone to fainting in high temperatures, so I need somewhere to stay cool. That's the only reason he rented the trailer for me and my mom. I explained this to her, and she simply nodded and left. My mom later found her making a phone call to one of her friends, stating that there was a fun camping party going on, and her husband should come. Of course, this was without our permission. While we ate dinner, EM happily announced to everyone that her daughter, Dee, would be coming to join us the next day. And you guessed it, we didn't tell her she could invite anyone. Side note, EM, Mrs. reasoning for inviting Dee was so she and my family could make up for her not having a graduation party. She didn't get to have it because EM was insistent it must take place at our house, but it would be inconvenient for us, so we told her no. The next morning we walked outside and we see Mrs. Son, TJ. At this point, my mom is super annoyed with EM. That wasn't helped by EM cooking food that we had brought and telling my mom she didn't know what she was doing, so she couldn't help her cook. These weren't small meals either. She spent all day cooking a huge meal on her own accord and then complaining that she hadn't gotten any help. Finally, nighttime rolled around and EM told her kids that they wouldn't be driving home in the dark, so we would make them beds in the camper. Me and my mom were losing our minds at this point, but still we tried to remain civil. I pulled out the couch onto a bed, and my mom started to try to figure out how to turn the dining room table into a bed as well. EM helped my mom lift the table up before stopping to look and see how it may turn into a bed while holding it up with one hand and leaving my bad back mother to bear the majority weight. I tried to help, but EM was in the way and yelling at me that she had it. After a few minutes, EM came to the conclusion that no, the dining table doesn't turn into a bed. EM let go of the table and angrily pushed it back down while my mom was holding it. This is ridiculous. My daughter shouldn't have to sleep in her car. Next time you need to have better accommodations. She also implied that because her son was so much bigger, we should give up our bed for him. We just said no way. We didn't even know her kids were coming. It mostly stops there, but EM is completely insane, so I'll most likely post about her again. Update. To everyone calling me and my mom pushovers, my dad is a narcissistic drunk who likes his friends and his appearance more than us. He really likes EM and has referred to her as an angel to our families. If me and my mom had told her off, my dad wouldn't back us up in 6 against 2 is a slippery slope. We didn't allow her back into the camper after the bed incident. The only reason we went was because we weren't going to let EM take our family trip away from us. She ended up doing so, and we aren't doing anything that she is involved in anymore. So my mom had insisted that I stay with her for my job during the lockdown. It's still going on where I live. So I did, and I regretted it, to the point that I'm losing more money than my job can pay me. I have a job at Amazon in their distribution center. Basically, I sort the packages to get to the customer's residence. I have the night shift, it sucks. I have mental health issues, and night shift plus stress from mom plus the drive made me look elsewhere for work. I found a good job that pays more, about $8.80 more than what I make now. It's in the daytime. That's the best bit. That's where the problems start. So my current job has me drive 100 miles round trip and eats my gas and mileage like Pac-Man and his pellets. I get roughly $19 an hour, but the reason this is worse, Mom expects me to pay her $500 a week for rent. My paycheck is roughly $760. Take away $500, and I have $260 left. After making payments on my car, which is $180, I have $80 to pay for gas. Gas where I am is $3.98 a gallon. I use up nearly $60 to fill up from when the gas light turns on to full. So, yeah, I need somewhere else. Now, my new job, which I start 3 days after writing this, is in the day and is remote. I can work from home as long as I have a computer of sorts, a smartphone, and internet. The job pays more, and my mother saw my text to my grandparents about it. Well, guess who decides to tear me a new one? If your guess was my entitled brat of a mother, you'd be right. Now, my mom doesn't take care of the house, at least since I came back. I had to vacuum, fix anything that breaks, mow the lawn, cook, and take care of my sister. That doesn't sound like an entitled mother. That sounds like you being a member of the household. I know that's what you're thinking. Well, let's put her back to the ways of the entitled mother. Mowing the lawn has to be done on Fridays between 9 and 10 a.m. My night shift doesn't let out until 11:50, and even then, it's a 40-minute drive if there's no traffic. With traffic, I'd be lucky to be home before 2:30 p.m., so I get chewed out for not having it done then. I can't get any sleep until I finish my chores. Now I need to sleep from 5 p.m. to 11:30 p.m. so I can get enough sleep. She won't let me go to bed until well after 9 p.m. So, on 2.5 hours of sleep, I have to drive 50 miles on a busy highway that's under construction, mind you. I have no personal property. I have a phone that she bought me as a 17th birthday present. She is now handing me the bill for the phone. She bought me an iPhone XR brand new for like $1,000. I got a military-grade protector case and a shatterproof screen cover. She demanded that I turn off my passwords for all of my devices that I paid for. So aside from the $500 rent, I now have to pay $1,000 for a birthday gift to myself. She adds $50 a week for interest. She has to read all of my emails, texts, see all of my contacts, hear every phone call on speaker, and can use my laptop as she likes. I had to purchase antivirus software after I got 9 on my laptop. She gets into my spam and clicks the links. You want a free iPad, click here to receive it. I had to use money that I don't hardly have to purchase antivirus software that keeps the viruses off the system. Any food that I buy, she eats instantly, claiming that it's her reward for raising me. My Nintendo Switch that I bought and have a 5-year warranty on was sold to a pawn shop. It still had my login info, credit card, PayPal, about $259, 98 cents in gift cards and $412, 22 cents in reward points, and 512 gigabyte microSD card. My Switch was worth a lot, and she sold it for $50. Yes, $50. But thank God that when they booted it up, they saw my contact info in the account settings. I got called asking why it was sold with all of that still on it. I told them that I didn't sell it and had warranty for another 3 years on it. Well, I got it back without any hassle. The Switch itself was my purchase. Everything else was family members sending me gift card after gift card for it. Needless to say, that new job is my ticket out of here. I put in my 2 weeks' notice already, so I'm ready for the new job. I can pay her ridiculous fees and save up enough to get an apartment again to get away. I'm going no contact with her, not my sister, but her. Now, seeing that this new job is better pay, and on the day when she's at her job, she decides that I have to stay with Amazon because I can't do remote work from her house. So apartment hunting. I go. I got a car, but she holds the title deed. It's her car, but I'm shelling out hundreds a month so she doesn't have to pay for it. Well, guess who has to get a new car without her name on it? Me. I want to get out of this hellhole, but she's emotionally and mentally manipulative. She says that this new job isn't going to pay me this right off the bat. The paycheck is what management, HR, and I agreed upon. It's on my contract, and if they violate it, that's a hefty fine. She then tells me that those hours are fake, once again agreed upon, and in my contract. 38, 40 hours a week anymore, and I get paid overtime. Now she's trying to get family members involved to get me to stay with Amazon. They all say she's crazy. Well, now I have her crazy friend group on Facebook who think I'm a minor. I can go grab a beer whenever I want. So yeah, she's Mother of the Year material. I hate her. Thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more captivating stories. Share your own experiences, opinions in the comments below, and let's keep the conversation going. Until next time, stay tuned for more epic tales.